Today, I'm going to explain a crime film called No Country for Old Men. Spoilers ahead. Watch out and take care. The film begins with the sheriff reflecting on the generations of sheriff that came before him and how differently the kind of crimes and cases he was handling now. Here he begins to talk of one such particular case. A man in a black jacket is in cuffs while being led to a police car by a young police officer. The only equipment he has with him is a small hand-carried tank of pressurized air, attached to a hose and a nozzle. The two of them drive to the nearby police station. At the station, the young officer is talking with his superior over the phone about the man he had arrested. As soon as he hung up the phone, the man in black used his metal cuffs to strangle the police officer to death. He cleans up in the bathroom and leaves. The man in black steals a police vehicle and heads to the road. He stops a random civilian out on his car in the desert and asks him to step out of the car. The civilian, thinking he is a police officer, follows his instruction. The man in black then uses the nozzle of his small air tank to shoot a blast of pressurized air into the man's head, effectively murdering him. Elsewhere, a man in a cowboy hat is hunting deer in the desert. He makes a shot, but it only grazes the animal. He goes down the hill to track his prey, but instead, he sees a black dog in the distance. He follows the dog to find what seemed to be a drug deal gone wrong between some Mexicans. There were several cars and a slew of dead bodies covered in bullet holes. He opens one of the cars and sees a dying man asking for water. He takes the man's gun and inquires about the surviving man of the shootout. The man in the hat sets out to look for the survivor and finds him sitting at a tree. The man moves closer to find that the man by the tree is already dead, and beside him was a black briefcase containing a large sum of money. The man takes the briefcase and the man's pistol and sets out to go home. At his house, he is greeted by his wife Carla Jean, who is inquiring about where he got the briefcase and the pistol. The man in the hat is called Llewellyn. That night Llewellyn found difficulty trying to sleep, thinking about the dying man he left in the car asking for water. So he sets out in the middle of the night, much to the concern of his wife. Back at the area of the shootout, Llewellyn brings a gallon of water to the car. But as he opens the car door, he sees that the man is already dead. Over the distance, he spots two men by his car. They flatten its tires and head in Llewellyn's direction. Llewellyn runs and the men shoot at him. Llewellyn runs on foot and the two men give chase in their truck. He gets shot in the shoulder and he barely escapes through the river. He looks behind him to find the men's attack dog following him. The moment he gets on land, he cocks his gun and shoots the dog. Meanwhile, the man in black visits a convenience store run by an old man. The man in black antagonizes the old man with his strange and unsettling demeanor. Finally, the man in black asks the old man what's the most he's ever lost in a coin toss. The man in black tosses a coin and asks the old man to call it. After some back and forth, the old man does what he is told and successfully guesses heads. The man in black leaves the old man with the coin, emphasizing to him how valuable that coin is. The old man is shocked by the encounter, not knowing how close he was to being killed. Back at the shootout area, the man in black arrives with two men in suits, implied to be the ones who own the briefcase. They continue to inspect the place and investigate where Llewellyn might be. One of the men gives the man in black a tracking device that is connected to the briefcase containing the $2 million. After receiving the tracking device, the man in black shoots the two men dead. The following morning, the sheriff arrives near the scene of the shootout. He finds a car up in flames. He's joined by his fellow officer, Wendell. The sheriff successfully deduces that the car was indeed the one that was stolen by the man in black and is now up in the wind with some other car that he's swapped. After surveying the area, the two officers find Llewellyn's truck. The sheriff recognizes it and knows that it belongs to Llewellyn. Finally, they arrive at the scene of the shootout. The two officers investigate the scene. They take it to be a drug deal gone wrong, but they also notice the two men in suits and speculates that there may have been more than one violent encounter that went down. The man in black arrives at Llewellyn's house. He knocks on the door and after hearing no answer, he aims his nozzle directly at the door's lock and shoots a blast of pressurized air to knock the door lock into the room. It struck the wall, leaving a mark. When he gets inside, he finds the house abandoned. He goes up to the fridge and takes a glass of milk and sits down for a moment. The sheriff and Officer Wendell drop by at Llewellyn's house shortly after the man in black left. They inspect the area and notice the dent left on the wall from the door lock that was shot out. The sheriff notices that the glass of milk that the man in black left on the table is still cold. Officer Wendell is aggravated, realizing that they've just missed him. Llewellyn finds his way to a motel. He scans the room in search of a place to hide the money. He sees a ventilator shaft, ties a string on the briefcase, and pushes it within the vents. Wendell and the sheriff receive a lab report on the dead bodies. Both of them are unsettled and boggled by the fact that one of the bodies had an entry wound on the forehead, with no exit wound or a bullet. The next day, Llewellyn makes preparations for his pursuers. He rents an additional room back at the motel. He stayed in room 139 and rented room 137. He strategically left room 138 vacant. Later, the man in black picks up a signal on his tracker and finds his way to Llewellyn's motel. He surveys the area while watching the beeping light on his tracker. He stops his car directly in front of Llewellyn's room. He goes to the counter and looks at the motel map and proceeds to search the rooms one by one. The man in black rents a room in the motel. He removes his shoes and takes out his hand-carried tank of pressurized air, and walks towards room 138. While Llewellyn was trying to fish the briefcase in the vent with a tent pole, the man in black waits outside. He shoots off the door lock with the air tank and barges in with a rifle. He finds a different man in room 138 and shoots him dead. Another man appears from the bathroom and takes a shot at the man in black, but he outshoots him. One more man was hiding behind the shower curtain. He begs the man in black for his life, but still, he murders him. Llewellyn, who was in the room adjacent to him, hears the commotion in the other room. The man in black sits at the end of the bed and removes his socks. He searches the room for the briefcase and fixes his eyes on the ventilator shaft. He unscrews the vent lid using a coin and finds only skid marks left by the briefcase. Llewellyn escaped and caught a ride by hitchhiking. In a large office, a man in a cowboy hat named Mr. Wells enters the room. His boss asks if he knows Anton Chigurh by sight. The two men discuss Anton Chigurh, the man in black, the person they originally hired to track down their lost money and has now betrayed them and acting out of his own volition. Mr. Wells has been assigned to track down both the money and Anton. Llewellyn arrives at another motel called Eagle Pass. He checks in and asks the man on the counter to call him if any suspicious men check in. In the middle of the night, Llewellyn realizes that the briefcase might be bugged. He finds the tracking device, but before he's able to discard it, he heard a suspicious noise outside his door. He moves quietly, takes his shotgun, and poises it against the door. He shuts off his lamp and waits. He sees a man's shadow slip beneath the doorframe. Anton Chigurh now stands outside his door. Anton blasts off the door lock and it hits Llewellyn in the chest. Llewellyn fires off his shotgun at Anton and jumps out the window. Anton fires off another shot but misses. Llewellyn circles back at the motel entrance and makes his way to the back alley. Anton eyes him and fires off another shot from the window and it hits Llewellyn on his side. Llewellyn runs and hides behind a corner. The street is empty. A truck passes by and Llewellyn stops the driver. He gets in the car, but before he's able to take off, Anton shoots the driver. Llewellyn hits the gas and Anton continues to pelt the car with bullets. The car crashes and Llewellyn gets off and takes cover behind another car. He watches Anton's reflection from the nearby diner's glass windows. Anton gets closer to inspect the car. He follows the trail of blood with his eyes. In a split second, he realizes Llewellyn's direction and was able to dodge a blow from his shotgun at the right time. Llewellyn unloads the shotgun at the car Anton hid behind. Upon inspecting behind the car, Anton was gone and had escaped. Llewellyn, bruised and bloodied, goes on foot to cross the border to Mexico. While walking on a sidewalk on the bridge,